Well, everyone, I am so happy to see you all, this beautiful community. I'm really happy to be at Freeland Library. It's my library. I'm here at least 3 times a week. And I love, this is my first reading of this book. So it's a really important day for me, and thank you all for coming out. I want to note, have you noticed that Moonraker agreed to come? Diane Shiner's here, and Moonraker is selling the book. Should you need any books, 2 or 3 for the holidays, 4. We can all support our local independent bookstore. It's also in the bookstore in Coopville, the Kingfisher bookstore, and it's up in Village Books in Bellingham, which is like stardom. I don't know if they've sold any, but anyway. Also, I want to note Clancy Dunnigan back here, who just offered to come and record this for friends and family that couldn't be here, which thank you, Clancy. And I want to acknowledge this girl right here, Sarah, raise your hand, who's my daughter, and had a migraine today. We'll have to, and came up on light rail to be here with me. She's my editor and my support, so thank you, Sarah. So here's how this is going to go today. I'm not going to take an hour and a half. I'm going to talk a little bit about poetry. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. I'm going to talk a little bit about poetry, and then I am going to read 12 poems, which I timed today, and it's about 20 minutes, so you're not going to fall on the floor. And then there'll be a time for questions and answers, or any comments that you want to make, or any questions that you have about a particular poem, or whatever you want to do. So, about me. If you've read these poems, you already know everything about me. And we can talk about the risk of that if you want later, but I didn't hold back. It's there, warts and all. You will know that I grew up as the daughter of a military officer. We moved a lot, and I learned early that complaining did not do a thing for me. I wasn't going to get me anywhere. My dad was Irish Catholic from Brooklyn. My mother was Baptist from Texas. So we had a weird, I think that's called a mixed marriage. I spent my professional career in Seattle, raised my 2 children there as a single mom. I'm an MSW, I'm a psychiatric social worker, that's my background. In my career, I worked in the juvenile and criminal justice system, writing, speaking, writing more, speaking, taught juvenile law at the police academy, the state police academy, for decades. And I married my husband, Mike, who's a Seattle cop. He's there in the orange, looking out the window. Trained observer. Whom I met when I worked for Seattle Police Department as a social worker, taking 911 calls that were not crime-related. As you know, many of the 911 calls have nothing to do with crime. They have everything to do with mental health. So after retirement, Mike and I moved to Whidbey Island in 2001, and I've been active as a community volunteer, working on behalf of children, families, seniors, and veterans. Most recently, I did PTSD intakes at the Everett Vet Center for a number of years, where I was touched, and you'll know about this because of my dad, but I was touched when adult children of World War II and Korean War veterans started bringing their dads in, saying, it's about time. So that touches me a lot. Okay, so people often ask me, why did I pick poetry? Frankly, for the big money and the fame. In all seriousness, I started to become more and more aware of the volume of words everywhere. Podcasts, social media, opinions, soapboxes, blog posts, newspapers, just words, words, words. I don't know if there's a more verbal or verbose culture than America. And aren't we all ready to have the TV reporters stick the mic in front of our face? Aren't we ready for our 30 seconds? And we're going to be all set with our opinion and well, he seemed like such a nice guy. We never saw anything going on over there. So I started to feel oppressed by that, literally weighted down by how much language is on us all the time. So I wanted to start to get to the essence of things. I wanted to get to the truth, unvarnished, no unnecessary words. And I read the perfect quote, just in time for today. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. Okay? So I wanted this work really stripped down, and I hope I achieved that. So real quickly, here's what I think poetry should do. 3 things. I think it should slow us down. And I think just the nature of poetry with line breaks and the flow of it makes us even breathe differently, right? If you read a poem aloud, you have to focus and you have to slow down. So we really all need that. I think poetry needs to delight us. I think it needs to engage our imagination with honesty and humor sometimes. And I think, finally, it needs to connect us. I think we all feel so alone. I think we feel that our issues are unique issues. No one ever else has been snarky. No one's ever been lonely. No one's ever been mad. Just us. So I think that poetry, I think, at least my hope for mine, is that we can feel like a community. So the title of this book, Raise Your Hand If You Hear My Voice, is because I want to relate. I want us to be together and examine these things together. I mean, first draft could have been, You Are Not Alone. Could have been. Okay, my work falls into several broad categories. Family history and memories, relationships, aging, parenting, mortality, and observations of the world. So I've selected today 12 poems. I'm not going to make you fall on the floor with boredom, and then I just like to chat with you. So I've selected 12 poems that are kind of from those categories. Okay, let's start with the first poem that I think sums up a lot of how I think about language. It's called Nuance. And by the way, I don't know if I should have mentioned this, but my friend Stephen Horton suggested that I give you a program of what I'm going to read should you want to follow along with your volume if you want to. In your hymnals. Nuance. We don't do well with subtle distinctions. We do stocks and bonds, trends and data, treaties and contracts. We put people on the moon and stick to the point. Houston, we have a problem. We need an expanded verbal universe, more tenses than past, present, and future. One for when ancestors speak, another for when it seems like yesterday, one for premonition of something past, and one for everything happening at once. We need words to describe the shades between go and stay, for emotions read at a glance, the meanings of tears, footsteps that tell you everything, the way love changes, and all the amazing things we call ordinary. Battle cries. We were young, expected to survive, out of sight and mind. We stood up on swing seats, pumping hard to attain the most dangerous arc. It took courage to jump from there. We screamed as we let go of the chains, pinwheeling through the air, seat bouncing behind us, a secondary head-whacking danger. We shouted, "Geronimo!" as we sailed. Older kids had shown us this. Was it an atavistic memory of a brilliant enemy? Our fathers flew the South Pacific to bomb the Japanese, steely and determined to end a war they did not start. So sometimes when we jumped, we yelled, "Bombs over Tokyo!" We were little battle reenactors, living our fathers' dreams, unafraid to crash and burn. Can I just ask, did anyone ever yell "bombs over Tokyo"? Okay, maybe that was just my weird little Air Force. Yeah, Geronimo. Why? And kids learned it, right? We taught each other. Okay, next is remember. My mother's memoir sits on a bottom shelf, bound in blue leather, 2 volumes tied together with grosgrain ribbon. It has been there 25 years, untouched. She had written in secret for years, using archives and letters stuffed in a footlocker, moved around the world. She hired a typist, found a bookbinder, waited for Christmas to reveal her gift. We flipped through hundreds of pages, searching for highlights, achievements, anecdotes she treasured. What did she love about us? Did we make her happy? My brother didn't find his all-state wrestling championship. My sister didn't find her years in bad Southern schools where she was forced to pray, then shunned. She didn't write, "I skipped 2 grades, won prizes, and tutored other kids." The youngest did find her birth at an RAF base in England. The oldest births was mentioned because there was no anesthesia. It was needed by the troops. Her Army Air Corps father didn't see her until she was 2. My mother wrote about her life, and her life was my dad. Nobody could have kept us apart, Joe and I, she said. We learned we were 5 small unknown planets. Her Joe was the sun. Probably still need to see a therapist. My mother told me, "Correct your grammar and pronunciation. We may have come from poor folks, but we do not need to sound like it. Keep your elbows off the table. If you don't remember, I won't say it again. I'll hit your elbow hard with the butt of my knife. Sit down lightly, never plop. Knees together, skirt down, stand up straight, get the hair out of your eyes. Never yell for someone outside. Go find them and say what you have to say, like, 'It's time for dinner.' Do not leave clothes on the line after dark, toys in the yard past supper, Kotex boxes where men can see. Never return a plate empty. Plant flowers every place you move, even if you won't be there to see them bloom." Free will. Nuns insisted God is in charge. He has a personal plan for me. He sends angels to protect me. He loves me, so I should love him. That sounded pretty good. I felt fortunate to be a Catholic in the one true church with a VIP pass through purgatory. They described hell, eyes aflame, how you get there, one big thing or a bunch of little things. You never escape, you suffer forever, flayed and burned. Heaven less graphically described. Does God leave the house saying, "Don't let strangers in, I'll be right back"? And there is a knock on the door, and I open it to the devil, who tells me, "Think impure thoughts." And I say, "Okay." Then thunder rolls and I am doomed. Was I absent on the day this all made sense? Navigator. He flew the bloody South Pacific, landing under fire to supply Marines, carrying out wounded and dead, and a samurai sword he would not explain. He came home, dark and gaunt, stiff to hug, diminished. He had silk pajamas for us. They did not fit. We had grown. Uniforms and sword went to the back of his closet until orders came to fly over frozen Korean mountains. Unarmed and unafraid was his squadron's motto. He came home again with more he would not say. We learned not to touch him while he slept, but to awaken him from across the room, calling his name to avoid a sudden blow he never meant to land. Dodgeball targets. I remember them. The girl who chopped her hair, plucked her eyelashes, and later became a cutter. The boy with one set of clothes, urine smell strong in a hot classroom. The teacher made him sit apart in the back. The other boy with googly-eyed glasses who smiled all the time and tried to join games. The girl who cried every recess. Nobody asked why. The ball throwers were taller, straighter. They had retainers and nice haircuts. They could read. They did their homework. They got excused early for vacations where they learned to ski. Their fathers were cool on career day. Their moms looked pretty picking them up. They invited lucky classmates to birthday parties with bouncy castles, magicians, and fancy t-shirts for favors. They hooked the ball hard and fast, their evolutionary role to destroy the weak. None of their targets escaped. Some kids didn't see it coming. Some didn't understand the game. Some couldn't move. Some wouldn't play because it hurt so bad. But they got hit on the sidelines anyway. Selma, 1986. His back did not touch the chair. Uniform shirt stiff with starch. Polished leather glinted and creaked. Police radio crackled on the table. Alabama state trooper hat placed beside him just so. I'd come to see the Edmund Pettus Bridge to honor the memory of a bloody day that showed a stubborn nation what had to change. Breakfast first, my chance to watch townspeople, guess who had been bad or worse back then, see if anyone looked guilty as they should. A freckled waitress brought him coffee, no cream. Farmer-tanned locals glanced over, nodded, leaving him to his paperwork. Just a black guy they knew, grabbing breakfast on the job. Sunday morning, at that diner, the truth was marching on. Yard sale. Baby clothes, carefully pressed, stained but almost new. Power tools, cords wrapped and stowed by a Navy man. Small kitchen appliances that seemed like good ideas once. You could dehydrate fruit or hard cook eggs. Maybe buy the picture just for the frame. You could use some clothes for quilt squares if you ever had time. You should eat more fruit. Would the blending stick help? There are pruning shears you kind of need. Prices are already low, but signs say, make an offer. There's the recliner embossed with Granddad's shape. You can smell him in the leather. Cagey shoppers handle costume jewelry, remembering stories of undiscovered diamonds, a rare brooch worth a mint. It is intimate to handle these simple things, brought from private places to public tables, revealing family stories, the unspooling history of children, clothes the lady cannot wear anymore, too small, too fancy, a wide lapelled sports coat only worn once at his retirement party. What if we could be as honest about ourselves? A little worn but still good, needs TLC. What if we just put it out there, nothing hidden? Do we have a deal? As is. This is dedicated to my neighbor, who's a retired gynecologist. You can stand up if you want. Okay. And actually, I wrote this thinking about you. This is called Queen. I have wondered about the royal gynecologist. How did he, I am sure it is a he, land that job? He had to know how to employ a speculum with deference. Were the Queen's stirrups lined in ermine? I doubt she wore a skimpy gown or had to sit on crinkly paper. I have thought about her purse. She clung to it like a nervous tourist in Naples. Of course, there would be a hanky and reading glasses. She did not need a passport or cash for tips. Speech notes? Breath mints? Silver flask? Who taught her to say we? Who showed her the wave? How many hands did she shake? I'm sure it was millions. Not shake, really, more a two-finger touch. God save the Queen from hard grips. Bad art. Dogs playing cards, different breeds, shot glasses of whiskey, poker chips, and cigars, bandanas, some derbies. A dusky lady, perfect round dress, nipples perky, tropical fruit basket on her head, fluorescent paint blaring from black velvet. Woodland scene with birches and a creek, an out-of-scale deer with a fawn or two, a lowering winter sky, only 3 shades of green for the whole forest. Take these paintings to a Brooklyn gallery. Announce the exhibit, Americana. Invitation only. Serve cheese, crackers, and wine. This is how bad art makes good. Free it from smoky pool rooms and the faded walls of motels. Burnish it with irony. Count your money. The last one I want to read, I planned to read before I even realized that today is 9/11, but it couldn't be better. So it's called Amazing Grace. Grace goes unnoticed, like the air we breathe, things we don't stop to see. Too busy anyway, so much to do. Sure, the sun comes up, big moon waxes and wanes, species come back, rivers clear, people share what they have, rush into collapsing buildings, work around the clock, dig each other out. It is only after fire and flood, after we are still alive, after green returns through char, after we don our black clothes and kneel together, we think to call it amazing. Thank you. So I promised you I wouldn't bore you, and I hope I haven't, and I would just like to open it for any questions or comments or suggestions, and I see my friend Stephen.
I would like to ask you to read 3 additional poems. Self-Help on page 25, Wishful Thinking on page 23, and Remember When on page 2.
Okay, you're going to have to give me a
I'm
note.
ready to start on page 2.
Oh, okay, start on page 2.
Page 2.
Farm stand fruit, unwashed, polished off on the spot. Tomatoes from dried out soil smelled like sun. Trucks pumped DDT for us to cavort in like fog. We biked on runways, peed outside. Air Force Dennis Novocaine was only for troops, so we faced their drills raw and afraid. I finally saw leaves on trees through new glasses, the standard plastic frames issued to dependents. Friday dinner was always beans and potatoes. Sunday mass meant gloves and hats, a box full under the bed, take your pick. 1 bathroom for 7, 4 girls for dishwashing, 1 bag only when you move and you pack it yourself. Masking tape on the floor for walls in shared bedrooms. Students, we have a new girl in class. Please say hello to Janice.
Page 23, Wishful Thinking.
Okay, Stephen.
I've got you here. I'm going to make you do it.
All righty. Wishful thinking. I read a poem yesterday at a family wedding. It was a fine, modest affair from something like years ago. No drama, both their dogs in new bandanas, food from the Safeway deli. The groom's 91-year-old grandmother witnessed, signing the papers with her left hand, her right frozen by a recent stroke. She got the job done. This morning, I saw photos of me reading, standing before the incandescent couple. Some showed Mike and me watching. We are old. We are pudgy. I thought about us 38 years ago in front of the judge right after work. Lieutenant O had just delivered the president onto Air Force One back to the other Washington. Instead of celebrating wheels up with the Secret Service, he came in his uniform to marry me. I had run 5 miles at lunch, then had my hair done. Our still robust mothers witnessed. This morning, I wished the pudgy old couple could have talked to us long ago. Or is silence best? In sickness, theoretical. Wisdom, currency only for elders.
One more, my friend. Self-Help on page 20.
I actually paid Stephen. What is it? Which one, Stephen?
Self-Help on page 25.
Okay, so self-help. Okay. This was a tough one. Okay. Self-help. What's going on? My inner therapist asks. I'm always sad, I answer. Why is that? I am fat. I am parched for touch. I try but fail. I am inconsequential, yet I crave praise. What I care about most, I cannot control. My grandson, global warming, the death of democracy, 25 million tons of plastic into the oceans every year, living in a world where women are livestock. Invitations to dinner parties I see on Facebook have dried up. I don't blame the hosts. I am not the most desirable guest. She's a lot, they say sadly. I am weird and remote and have nothing to wear, flung back to 8th grade in my 7th decade. People say everything happens for a reason, and think about others less fortunate. I know I can drink the water, breathe the air. I am not being bombed or raped or tortured. I know. But recognizing privilege does not heal, nor does helping others or staying busy. What does help? Reading about others' lives until I can sleep, coyotes howling in the night, 24 hours of rain, the magic in any theater when the lights go down, knowing nobody notices, knowing I am almost done. That's a rough one. Anyone? Joyce.
When did you start writing these? Like, is this a collection of like 30 years work, or they sound very recent?
They are, I started writing about 5 years ago. I took out probably as many as are in, because there are certain things you can't write about while others are still alive. Like, I will tell you, a hint is I wrote one I really love about my former daughter-in-law, but she can never read it, so it will probably never be published. So I've been writing them, I've been editing them. I got a genius editor to make them just tighter and tighter. She was really mean. I'd go, no, that's funny. And she'd go, nope. I was interrupted several times with family, big family drama. I had to put it away for a while. And the last, I would say, 6 months was a push. I was determined. It was a push to the finish. And we worked hours and hours and hours, many, many days a week, as often as I could get Sarah up here to help me edit. So some are old, some are new, but all of them are freshly edited and really pruned. Yeah. Jeannie.
Start to finish, about how long does it take you to write?
Some of them jump onto the page almost completely done. An example is a poem about my dad planting morning glories on saipan, which we can talk, it's in here, called Morning Glories. And I woke up one morning thinking about it. Basically, what my mother sent my dad a package of morning glory seeds when he was on saipan so he could plant them around his tent and make it pretty. It's now, saipan is taken over by heavenly blue morning glories. And we have a couple here who actually lived on saipan and have confirmed that this is the case. And I have such mixed feelings about that. She meant well, but basically it's an invasive species like Scotch broom that is destroying the ecology of saipan. So I woke up one morning and the phrase blossoms deadly as bombs just hit me, and I just sat down and that poem just came. Other poems, it's like pulling teeth, and I'll give you another example of that. I have wanted for many years to write about little boys about 4 or 5 years old who wear Superman capes. You know what I'm talking about, right? You see them. And what I love about them is they are dead serious. They don't want to be patronized. They are ready to answer the call. And they are kind of our best human beings at that age. They're... and
they are willing to jump off of roofs.
They're willing to do anything. They're willing to do anything, and they just want to serve. Okay, so I have tried and tried and tried to write that. I take it out. I try. I think I've got a little lead. I try again, and I've never written it, but I will write it. So some come easy, some come really hard.
Janice?
Cynthia.
Or did you? All these questions have been great, and I'm just so curious about writing poetry. It's one thing to write in my journal, it's another thing to think I could write a novel, but when you write, everything is so diverse and different, and I just wonder about, do you keep a dictaphone with you when it hits you? Like you're on the expressway train and it comes, or you wake up, or you're in the shower, or how do you stay with, finish that one, or do you go into 6 or 7? That's my question.
Okay, I have notes. I have notes of ideas, sort of a sketchbook, and I'll give you an example from yesterday. So I have a 13-year-old grandson who's on the spectrum, and when he was little, he was very finicky about eating. He would only eat crunchy things, and I worried about that, and I tried to think about how to get him better food, and it was just like, Well, now he's an 8th grader at South Whidbey Middle School, and I picked him up yesterday, and he said to me, "Grandmother, I am so hungry." And I was like, yay! That I've been waiting for that for 13 years, and off we go to the Goose, and we get like deli chicken and potatoes, and I get to feed him. And it was such a glorious thing. And there's a poem that I will be writing. I don't know what it'll be, but there's something, any of you all who have parented a teenage boy, when they need to eat, it's desperation. And to be able to meet that need with him, especially with our history, that's on my list of a poem that I want to write. So it's stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, that's a good one. So. Any other? Oh, Cynthia.
Cynthia on the floor.
Yeah.
How are you able to overcome like your natural reticence to be open enough to share some of these poems? Because I would think that would be challenging.
I actually got a call from my sister Carol, who is a cop and knows me really well, and she read one of these, and she, without any preamble on the phone, she said, "What in the hell are you doing?" She said, "You're a middle child. You have hidden all your life. What are you doing?" And I just made the decision that I wanted to tell the truth about everything that I could without hurting other people, i.e. my daughter-in-law. And I figure I'm not alone. I figure that most other, especially women, understand pretty much what's in here. I've been surprised that many men seem to get it as well. And I don't know, but I'll tell you that in the couple of weeks after this went to publication, I was freaking out. Because once it's out there, there is no taking it back. And people are going to read everything. And I would do it again, but it's a vulnerability that I did not expect.
I was thinking about rhythm and rhyme, and it's, when we were younger, it seemed like everything had to be, you had to be conscious about rhyming. How do you approach that, or has that evolved over years?
I have never really wanted to be fit into a rhyme scheme, and I think there are poets that disapprove of that. I mean, I have a lot of poet friends who write to form. There are different forms of sonnets, etc. There's only one poem in here that rhymes, and I can read it for you if you want. And this was a request by a friend.
Yeah. Page 105.
Thank you, Stephen. You're the man, Stephen.
105 in the third paragraph third stanza is an asking.
Okay. So a friend was helping me decorate and design my new house, and she was pretty tough on me, and she said, "You really need to have dimmer switches in your bathrooms. And would you please write a poem about that?" So I did. And this is the only one in the book that rhymes. The case for dimmer switches. Luminous candles and glimmering lights illumined dinner party space where all was just right. You look pretty good, you think, sort of smug. Now time has come for warm farewell hugs. Everyone's tired, your waistband too snug. You go to the bathroom before hitting the road. Their powder room light flares out like a bomb, blazing and bouncing through marble and chrome. You are transported in an instant from a set by Vermeer to an incandescent hellhole, a flat-out nightmare. Who is that woman staring back in despair? What's with that mustache and all those chin hairs? There are brown, veiny hands and wrinkles galore, a splatter of sauce, but wait, there is more. Spinach in your teeth. You're the photo before. It was a beautiful party, no expense spared. Finest wine from their cellar, food chef prepared. Silver and fresh glasses laid out for each course, place cards and roses, nothing was forced. Yet for lack of a dimmer switch, there is naught but remorse. Any other question? Yeah, Val.
I just wanted to thank you for reminding us today how much poetry is really a spoken art. Because I've read your book, I enjoyed it tremendously, but all these poems landed differently with me.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, it's made to be read aloud, and my dear editor didn't edit a single word until she'd read it aloud. So, yeah. What did I? Oh, I just wanted to say something. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I have had the pleasure of hearing other people read my poems. My brother has a podcast, and he and his podcast friend read a couple that they selected. And actually, Clancy Dunnigan has an FM show on KSER, blues show, and he read a couple of my poems. It's revelatory. It is like I've never heard it before when another person reads my work. I love it. I love hearing men read it. I love hearing other women read it. I had a great event. Some people who were here were at that, where all we did was people picked a poem that they really loved and read it. And I was just like, oh, I'm in heaven. I loved it. So, yeah, thank you, Val.
Do you ever have like a block where you know you want to write, but it just doesn't come, and you just have to leave it alone?
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with this?
I try to blame others. I always look for Mike, that making too much noise. No, sometimes you just can't force it. It's just not going to come. And there are writers who say, and I'm not judging them, I don't really like them, but I'm not judging them, who say that they get up every day and from 8 o'clock until 12 o'clock they work, and then they have a lunch, and then they do this. I always remember Tim O'Brien. I heard him lecture, and he's just got a absolute schedule, and that's just not the way it works for me. If somebody made me sit down every day at a certain time and try to write, it wouldn't work. But it does work for other people. It's very individual how it works. So I don't know if there are poets that would like to comment on that, but okay. All right. Linda's saying no. Yeah, Fern.
I'm not a poet, but I paint. And sometimes I'm stuck. And I end up really not liking the painting because I can't figure out how to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to set it aside and wait until I figure it out how to do it, or I decide that I need a challenge for that particular day and pick it up again. But I think it's very similar to writing in that you can't force it and you just have to figure it out.
You can't force it. You also can't, it's hard to know when it's done, when you just need to stop. And interestingly enough, I was picking these poems for today, and I Oh, I wanted to fix one. There was something in there I didn't like. So yeah, when it's done, when to walk away, when to let it sit, it's a dilemma. Yes, sir.
Do you write by hand?
No. I write on the computer. I can't write by hand.
Then you have to type it again anyway.
Yeah. No, I need to be able to see it and then delete it and then move things around, move lines around. Yeah. Sarah.
Just a comment. I find your poetry very modern and clean. The words are simple, but they are so meaningful, and I really liked your nuance. And I'm just going to say, if you can't find the new words, you will find a way of expressing their intention, and it was very, very lovely to read.
Thank you. Could I? I'd love to just give you an example of the right word. Okay. So there's a poem in here, and I can't remember the title, that has to do with pulling a silver fish out of the river. That's the metaphor, and I wrote it, and I was trying to describe how river rocks, like up around Leavenworth, the rushing Washington rivers, how the river rocks click together and make that sound. And so I wrote about the river rocks clicking like cymbal. What did I say? They clicking like cymbals, like like this, in the band when they go like that.
You chose Calypso first.
I chose Calypso. Then we didn't like that. Then I chose cymbals, and we weren't happy with that. But I couldn't think of anything better. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and thought castanets, because you get the sound and you also get the word play of fishing. Cast a net. And I was just like, dang. All right. So, I mean, it's so precise and surgical, where you need a powerful word and sometimes you can't find it right away and then you find it, or you don't. So, any other questions? So,
I have one more question.
Oh, yeah, Cynthia.
I'm so sorry.
No.
I'm so curious. Who do you write for?
Oh, that's such a good question. I write for all of my women friends in this room and for my sisters. I write for women that who have modestly never told their story, who don't share their emotions very much, who never show weakness because they're moms. Who are nurturers and caregivers, and they're tired, and they're sad. So as I write, I think about my sisters, all of us. To my surprise, men have loved this poetry. And I have a theory about why that is. Would you like me to share? So I think that women, and this is an absolute exaggeration that I have to do to make this point, and I know there are exceptions, but I think women are so good at verbalizing their feelings in relationship. We've got a problem, we need to work this out, this is how I feel, how do you feel, what do you think, what could we do differently, could we share the work differently, what do you think about the kids? Words. And I think men are not, for the most part, have not had the practice at verbalizing emotions that women have had. I think that men are often exhausted and inundated by especially women's voices. I think they're just like, would you just shut up? And again, I know I'm exaggerating, but so I think when men read something that is plain language, it's not fancy words, it's pretty straightforward, it gets to the point. I think they're just like, thank God. Finally. You know, I don't know if any men want to comment on that, and I don't want to get into a thing about, you know, how women are and how men are, but that's my theory. Yes, sir.
You're irreverent, and Lynn would read your poem, and I would just suck it up, and it was beautiful. And every poem that we use in other kinds of situations, which one do you like? So it's I'm lucky. It's not Robert Bly, but it's Lynn, and it's your poems. It's lovely.
So would you tell people that the Morning Glories have taken over Saipan?
Yeah, I could. You want, where's the poem? I don't know. We lived on Saipan in 1970 to 73. And, I taught high school, and then was raising two sons. And that particular plant leaf had aloe in it, and we would clean our diving masks with it. And one of your husband's airplanes was a standout in the lagoon, and we could swim around the plane itself.
Yeah. So it's for real. Would it be okay if I read one more? And I want to read this because I want to honor men. Okay, I want to say that for all of the strengths that women have emotionally and interpersonally and being able to talk and put feelings, we really need men. We need the way they think. And I think it's really easy to mock them. I just read something today that said, my husband has a really bad case of mansplaining, or as I call it, correctile dysfunction. And it's, men are easy to mock, all right? But my dad saved the world, and my husband did, and I know a lot of men who do. So I wanted to read this poem called D-Day, because this is about men that I honor. Jerky combat film shows flotillas, landing boats, millions of tracer rounds, men in bunkers on beaches, running for their lives, blinded by smoke, dodging shattered helmets floating away in surf, deaf to commands or screams. Behind, on sheltered desks, are carbon copies of orders, lists, inventories, directions, transfers, requisitions. There are acres of trucks and tanks and stretchers, tents and soup vats and pallets of ammo. It is too big to happen. Too many moving parts, yet here it is. Someone had to study the maps and the numbers, master the tides and the weather, learn the enemy, weigh the odds and say, go. You never knew enough, but one person had to say, today is the day. You hope your people will hold, will swim through, run fast across the sand, climb the cliffs, aim true. You know the hard fate of young men at war, the same ones who snapped to attention as you drove by yesterday, 5-star flag flapping in the cold, salty breeze. That's men. So. Thank you so much. 5 o'clock. Thank you. It just means the world to me to see all of you here. I'm so appreciative and touched. Thank you.
Thank you.